Social Media Fire podcast is on the air. Talking all things social media, trends, news, celebrities, and more. It's all fair game. Now let's go ahead and get the Social Media Fire started. So tonight's topic for this episode of the Social Media Fire podcast deals with Facebook. And specifically, we're going to be talking about Facebook likes for fan pages. You know, it wasn't really all that long ago that when you were talking about Facebook likes on fan pages, everybody was all about it. You had to go out and you had to get as many likes on your Facebook brand page as humanly possible. And it didn't matter the method. It didn't matter necessarily who your likes came from. Whether they were people who actually had an affinity for your brand or people who were simply willing to give you a like for whatever their reason, for whatever their motive. It was all about getting as many likes as possible. It was really kind of the first frontier, if you will, of social media management for social media administrators running brand pages once Facebook really opened that up. And the same was really true for your personal account as well. I can remember back in the day, you had a certain amount of friends on Facebook, but some people were competing with their other friends. So if I had 500 friends, somebody else had 700, they were feeling pretty good about that. Didn't matter if they had 700, but they only actually engaged with maybe 75 of them. Because a lot of it was about a status symbol. How many digits do you have on your Facebook friend status? And then some people got to 1,000 and that was like, whoa. And then some people would get to that point where Facebook said, wait a minute, you got too many friends now. I never got to that point personally. But a lot of people did. And then something changed with these Facebook brand pages. You got all these fans that you built up, and some people would get to thousands of likes, then tens of thousands of likes. And then Facebook said, you know what? You've worked really hard. You've gotten a lot of likes on your page. You've built up a pretty incredible fan base. And we think that's all well and good. But then all these other brands jumped on board. And it didn't matter what product you were trying to sell, whether it was dish soap, whether it was brand name paper towels, whether it were video game companies, furniture companies, it didn't matter. Everybody suddenly felt like they had to have a Facebook fan page. And they did get them. So then Facebook is looking at this weird thing going on now where you have all these fans and it's growing by leaps and bounds. All these people signing up for Facebook all the time. All these brands signing up, wanting to get their brand out there for some quote unquote free advertising. In many cases, you're sitting in your office and your boss says, hey, I've heard about this Facebook thing, man. We got to get on this. Get us on Facebook. I don't know what it's all about, but I hear it's pretty cool. So you need to go ahead and get us on that. And a lot of people did. Sometimes they knew what they were doing. Sometimes they didn't. But the point was you knew that you had to have it. Or at least your boss felt like you had to have it. And then sometimes it was the opposite. You knew you had to have it, but your boss is kind of like, oh, I don't know. Let's stick with the old ways of doing it. Let's stick with the old ways of communicating with people. Let's stick with the traditional ways of reaching out to our fan base. Let's keep it old school. I know we got all this new school stuff, but the old school stuff, that's what we know. And so it was a matter of perspective, depending on the progressive nature of your boss in terms of marketing and communications. So now Facebook has got a little bit of a dilemma. You got all these fan pages out there, and you got all these fans of all these fan pages out there, and there's just too many fan pages out there per person who has an account. And so your news feed on Facebook suddenly looks more like Twitter than what you would expect from Facebook. That's because you like everything. Everybody's sending you a motivation, some kind of signal that, hey, you should like this. Your friend likes this, and so should you. And so you sign up because you feel like, oh, my friend asked me, and I want to be nice, and they extended you this invitation. You should sign up for it. Or you see a product that pops up in your feed because of a friend, and you think, oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll go ahead and like that page. Go ahead and like that page. And then before you know it, you got thousands of pages that you like. And so Facebook looked at it and said, well, there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for us to make some money on the one hand, but also to keep under control the amount of stuff that's flooding the fan pages of our customers. And so it started to restrict a little bit, well, actually a lot of it, the amount of contact that you as a brand page could make with your fans. And so you're sitting there with 30,000 fans, but you make a post on your page and it only reaches a tiny fraction of the fans that you have. So if you have 30,000 fans, but your post is only reaching, say, 2,500 of those 30,000 fans. Now what are you going to do? Well, Facebook says, okay, look, if you go ahead and throw a little bit of money at it, we'll boost your post, and then you'll let you reach a few more of those 30,000 fans. And depending on how much, you might be able to reach 5,000, 10,000. If you really want to open up the bank account, hey, you might even be able to reach all 30 or more, depending on how much you're willing to spend, depending on how much you're willing to stretch that budget. And so those 30,000 fans are only as relevant as the amount of money you're willing to spend to actually reach them. You could post something and your 30,000 fans might not even see it. And so what good is it? And so a big change came, and now people said, wait a minute. Facebook is saying, depending on how engaging your post is, depending on how much it's going to appeal to your audience, that's going to determine how many people you can reach. You're still not going to reach all 30,000, but if you have an engaging post that's being commented on, that's being clicked on, that's being shared, then it's going to get more in front of the people that you want to reach. And maybe even some people that you didn't anticipate reaching because you had a friend or a fan, that decided that, hey, I'm going to share it and I'm going to put it in front of my friends who may not be fans of your brand, but they're going to get a chance to be exposed to the content that you posted. So those amount of fans that you have, suddenly the value of that becomes quite minuscule compared to what it was before. And so people have since been focusing way more on engagement, on trying to find the content that's going to make the biggest impact with the fans that you can reach. So Facebook is saying, okay, create good content, create appealing content. And that's what people have been forced to do. What the smart social media administrators have been forced to do is to use their Facebook Insights. And your Facebook Insights, if you know how to use them, if you're even willing to use them, they can tell you about your audience. They can tell you how your audience is receiving your content. Is it from their desktop? Is it from their mobile device? Is it in the city in which you're based, the state in which you're based, the country in which you're based, or is it in another city that's more popular, another state that's more popular, another country that's maybe almost as popular? What's your next best country that your message is getting to, and finding fans that are appealed, that your message appeals to? So the value of using your insights to find out the right time of the day to post your messages. And so as you learn your audience, what your audience wants, when they want it, that helps your post to become more effective, so that even if you do decide to use some advertising dollars to boost your post, you know when is the best time to do it, when your audience is going to be most receptive to it, what your audience is most receptive to. You can be putting a post out there that you think is fantastic, but your audience says, no, we don't like it. And then you dig into your insights a little bit, and you find that every time you post this particular type of content, you're having 5 to 10 people who say, hide all of your posts, or hide this post, or unsubscribe, unlike your page. And so you have to look at it and say, whoa, these insights are telling me something that just because I like it, just because I think it's appealing, just because I think it's effective, doesn't mean that my audience is going to think likewise. So be very careful when you're looking at trying to build your likes. Now, building likes, very important at the beginning of establishing your page. You want to go out and you want to get as many people who are going to be interested in your content as possible. And even some of those ones who are going to be on the fringe of being interested in your content, you want to try to get them onto your page as well, because you might be able to appeal to them to get them to be more interested in the content that you have to offer. But once you establish the potential, the full potential, or even close to the full potential of what your audience is going to be, how big, how large your audience is going to be, then you have to shift over and start focusing on that engagement. So keep that in mind. It's not always about who has the most likes, as much as it is, it's important to find out who is doing the most with the likes that they have. So you have to understand your audience, understand how to reach your audience, and then understand what the content is that your audience wants. If you don't understand those things, you can have 100,000 likes on your Facebook page and you will not be able to reach them. If you're posting at the wrong time of the day, you will not be able to reach your audience. If you work an 8 to 5, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., whatever it is, and you're only making social media posts between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., you could be missing a huge audience. Because when are people a lot of times going to be on their social media? It could be between that time when you finish your dinner and you're going to go to bed. So in that 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. range, that could be a good time to reach your audience. And a lot of people don't think about that. And a lot of brands don't necessarily post at that time of the night. And they don't think about the fact that you have an audience that is in between dinner, letting that food digest, but not quite ready for bed. You could be watching TV, you got the laptop out, you're on the internet, you're gonna be on Facebook. Could be a good time to post. So pay attention to your analytics, pay attention to the research that's out there that tells you about what audience tendencies are, what audience likes and dislikes are, because that could mean all the difference in the world to you in terms of reaching the audience that you desire to reach. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. That Facebook fan page. Remember, it's not always about how many likes. It's about what you can do with those likes. With this huge proliferation of pages out there and accounts out there, you are competing with so many brands for an audience that is almost overwhelmed by content. So you got to think of when you can reach that audience, and you also have to think about the quality of your content to make sure that you're not only reaching your audience, but you're reaching your audience in an effective way. So thank you for listening to the Social Media Fire podcast tonight. Please download, share, like, and otherwise spread the word about Social Media Fire. I would invite you also to stay tuned for the next podcast of Social Media Fire. I am your humble host, Sandy Golston, and I am about to sign off for the night. Again, don't forget to share, like, comment on this podcast, and look forward to the next one coming up.